Hi, everybody. Welcome back to On the Roof. This is the first time that we're going to do an interview via Skype. And I'm really looking forward to this because I have a great guest today, and she's a great author. And her name is Soliel DeBella. And I'd like to welcome Soliel. Hello, Soliel.
Hi. Hi, Scott. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm really excited to do this and meet you. You write erotica, right?
Yeah.
And I'd like, if you could, just explain to the audience what erotica is to you.
Erotica to me is a beautiful storyline like any other. Erotica differs from romance novels as that we bring in more graphic work into it. So instead of getting the gist of the two that are in love or empowered with each other, we bring in the whole sexual aspect of it, and we bring that in graphically. And that's the difference between a romance novel and an erotica novel, is that all those elements are still there, but we're bringing in those graphic times where the two are connecting. If you took the sex out, the storyline would still be there. But yes, it's more based on those graphic moments throughout, so that we could bring our reader into that feeling of connectedness as far as sexuality goes. Yes.
So what would be the difference in your words between erotica and porn?
I think there's this thought of this taboo on erotica. I don't know why we get poo-pooed. It's still, the elements are all still there. Some people don't like the whole graphic part of erotica, but if you do, then it's for you. As far as porn, it's not visual. To me, you're an artist if you can pull your reader in to this moment with you by only your words. If I could turn somebody on within my only words on a paper, then you're doing your job well. It's the same as a romance novel, but you're bringing in those graphic moments so that the reader can understand what is going on between these two or these three, or whether it's female on female. You know, we're bringing in those elements, and it is very erotic as erotica, not porn. It's not meant to just talk about sex the whole time. There is a story behind it. And sometimes the story is fantastic. And sometimes it's paranormal, and sometimes it's romantic, and it could be on all different types of settings. And it's really remarkable that writers can do that. It's not easy. You know, I see a lot of erotica writers able to write thrillers and love stories and sci-fi. So it just brings in more of those elements. And a lot of people do read erotica. A lot of don't admit to it, and I don't know why it's so taboo.
You feel there's a place for this, right? How is the best way to get your story out? And is there a specific, target audience that you go for?
Obviously, it's 18 and over. I do a lot of my work in the romance. The romance and the erotica go together.
Okay.
And so, if you went to a venue for romance writers or an author signing, you're going to know that you're going to have your romance only, and you're going to have your erotica along with that. So it's mixed within the romance.
Right.
And again, the target audience is 18 and over because of the graphic content.
Right. Absolutely.
I do think people can be very visual, and I think that visual is what erotica is all about. It's because it's so right there in your face. It's so graphic, and every word brings you into that moment. So I could see why people would say porn. I could see that, but we're not watching it. We're reading it. So to me, it's more artistic.
It's a significant difference, right?
It is. I'm not just showing you how to do it. I'm showing you how to do it from my thoughts. That's pretty impressive. It's a whole different ball game. It's like this whole imagination going on in your head, and you might take it different than somebody else instead of just watching it on TV.
Right. But like you mentioned the word taboo, and there's such a taboo about sex.
Yeah.
I think what you do is you give it a good voice. I mean, you're a brilliant writer. Your storylines stand on its own. If you pull all your sexual stuff out of those stories, they stand on their own. So now, when we talk about the masculinity and the femininity, it involves more of the imagination. I mean, what you're doing comes from your mind. It's not through you, on the keyboard and out, and then somebody else has to read that and through their mind, process that, and come away with what they come away with.
I understand where people are coming from, but from a writer's point of view, it's still. I get upset with the fact that we can be looked upon as writers that can't do anything else, but we chose this genre. I chose this genre because it's not an easy task.
Mm-hmm.
I like challenge. So, a lot of audience they don't understand that these writers can write anything, and many of them do. I know many of my friend authors on social media have all different kind of genre, and this is just it's fun to write. So people shouldn't poo-poo the writer and think that this, I've even heard, well, they're not real writers. Of course we are. That's what we chose to write. And, like I said, many other writers have different genres that they write. So I think that's the part that I dislike the best is this weird thought process that we can't write. Like, we can only go towards this sexual graphic content, and that's about all we could do. And I've heard it. So it's like, I think that's the worst of the worst right there.
Have you ever heard that from anybody that's read your work?
Yes. You just write porn. This is what I hear. You just write porn. Oh.
That's somebody that's read your work and says that, or it's somebody that jumps to judgment before reading your work?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Really? A lot of these people aren't readers anyway.
Yeah.
They're just, yeah. So that they jump the gun, and that's right where they go to, like to the throat.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like a weird concept.
There's nothing. For me personally, I mean, if it's not your thing, then put the book down. Don't buy the book. I mean, with the stigma comes so much negativity, and just so much of an uphill battle for somebody like you. It's hard enough for a writer, and I don't care how good you are. You can be the most profound writer out there. In today's society, the way things are set up, it is so hard to make a living and sell your stuff and promote yourself and market yourself and do the work. I mean, it's just like, it's all on you, and it's really hard. And there's so many talented people that really, it's the same thing in other fields of art too, like in music how do you get your feet in the door? It's a really tough thing to do, and kind of nurture your talent. Yeah. And then when you're up against all this adversity, just because of the genre you write about, it's almost not fair. Not almost not fair. I don't think it's fair.
When I go to author signings or I'm at different venues, you feel like the creep in the corner. It's just this awful, weird stigma. Like, oh, she's the erotica writer. It is. It's just this overwhelming feeling. But I don't. I'm going to keep trucking. I'm not the only one out there writing erotica books. It's been going on for years, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it if that's your thing, because I'm going towards a target audience, and they will come and find me, and I will still go to all my settings.
Things are becoming more acceptable. There's still zealots in every walk of life, and it's just, there's always going to be a certain obstacle, especially with something that, for lack of a better word, is controversial at times, right? So there's going to be resistance to a certain degree. But obviously, the joy of what you do outweighs, the problems that you run into along the way.
Absolutely. Right.
In what sense?
I'm not going to have that stop me. Yeah.
Right. So what is it about the gratification you get from doing it? Like, what is that that keeps driving you to do more and more and more and own this part of yourself as a writer?
I think social media had a lot to do with it. You find this huge audience and all these writers that are doing this with you. I mean, I have hundreds of people that I get to read their work and they get to read mine, and you realize you're not alone, and it's a good feeling, and it's the feeling of accomplishment of writing any book. So um, I think that's what helped me most is Facebook and seeing all these author friends and what they're going through, and you know, you just ignore that negative part and you keep going down the road where you want to go and you accomplish your books, and that's what makes you feel good about yourself is you created something. Like any artist, whether it's a musician, a painter, when it's finished, you could say I did this.
Right.
And regardless of what the other audience doesn't like, I feel like I did a great job, and that's what matters.
Right.
Is that target audience that are looking for me, I'm right here and I'm waiting for them and I have my books for them. And like you said, things will change and they're getting better year by year.
So it's the sense of accomplishment, like because it's
Yeah.
almost like against all odds, you're going to defy this and
Yeah.
get it done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good for you. Would you say that the your writing, is it geared more towards women?
I have a lot of diverse subjects in my books. I have threesomes. I have voyeurism. I have female on female.
How is that what you're writing going to enhance the reader?
Well, it's going to pull them into a thought process of sexuality. It's going to turn them on, and that's the focus here. And that's what I do. You're not going to just read a story, and if I'm not turned on by my own writing, then my reader isn't going to be either. So that is the focus of erotica writing, is to turn you on.
Is there a line that you won't cross?
Yeah, I'm not afraid to cross any lines.
Right.
No.
Really? No lines. There's nothing off limits.
No, nothing off limits. I think that's the point of erotica.
You're a complete person, right? This is a part of your world, right? Do you ever feel judged by people and dismissed because this little part of your world is something that somebody else can't identify with? So the rest of your life, and which is highly important, and is almost deemed irrelevant because of judgment.
Personally, for myself, I'm a very secluded person. Mm-hmm. So I keep this very important part of my life to myself. And just my little inner circle of my immediate family. I was kind of judged right off the bat by, outsiders. So right away I closed it off. And I just revel in the fact of what I'm doing, and I enjoy my own time, and I am just on a mindset of accomplishing what I want to, and it really has nothing to do with anybody else. I don't care about the judgments anymore. I close the door to them, and I'm in my own little world. I do my work all day, and I do my writing, and I have a goal, and I'll see where I am at in 5 years. And it's such a joy for me to do it for myself. It's about me. It's not about them. So I'm not really worried about it.
But what was that? I mean, to get to this point, that's a great freedom to have. But I'm sure that was a process to get to this point where you are now, right?
It's a huge process, and everybody has to learn on their own. You don't feel comfortable with anything at the beginning. You don't have enough experience in it. The more you go, the more you feel comfortable in your own skin, the more you realize you're going to be judged no matter what, and even if you're not a writer. I mean, I think that's the thing of getting older anyway. You just come to this point where you don't care, and you're going to do what you're going to do, and you're going to get there one way or another. And the whole point is to have fun with it. You have to love what you do. It's not like you make millions off of it. So you better enjoy what you do, and you just see what's going to happen at the end of the tunnel.
Right. How much of it is just being open-minded? In this case, being, the allowing yourself the permission to go where you want in your head sexually.
Well, I can't speak for anybody else, but I'm a very open person, and it actually, being such an open-minded person actually closes you off to many people because you realize how many people are actually not open-minded at all. So yeah. You're just sitting here all open by yourself and enjoying, life, And you just look out and you just see all these people and they're just like, hello, they're just not even awake. Um, it's just this weird phenomenon going on, and you just look around and you feel alone sometimes, and it's just becoming more comfortable with that. Like, because I'm like an overly open person, and I think you have to be creative.
Yeah.
Or the creativity comes pouring in.
Where did you get your satisfaction from creatively before you began writing, uh, erotica?
I really didn't, and I always felt there was something missing. Like I've always been a creative person. I didn't know where my outlet was, so I was always this very high energy. I'm a high energy person, and I can't sit still, and that's why I got into meditation and all kinds of other things. But I couldn't find an outlet that really proved to work for me until I found writing. And when I did, it all came together. It's like sometimes you don't find that niche until later in life, or a door doesn't open for you right away. And that's just the way it is. And you have to
Yeah.
deal with the cards that you're dealt.
Yeah. I know what you're saying there, and that is so hard to really comprehend that. When to just accept things sometimes and just keep going, but it does.
Yeah.
That's just really difficult. Like you say, everybody's got their own. Has to find that out on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be nice if it all just went like so, but it doesn't in life, so.
Yeah. Are you? Where are you at personally with like consciousness, mindfulness, and this? I see it being a real has a lot of momentum now. I'm noticing it a lot in a lot of people. A lot of people that without even kind of recognizing it, I was blind to what was going on around me. And then when it was pointed out, and you start to say, "Oh man, there it is. There's more of it. There's more of it. Somebody else. Oh man." And it's like, wow, where have I been? And a lot of they call it awakening. You're either woke or you're not. But you know, where are you at with that?
I've been pulled towards that since I was really young. It's just always been there for me. So I found finding like-minded people is like the best thing that you could possibly do. And then you're interested in conversation. It's like talking or being around those closed-minded people. I'm not interested in like the conversations. I don't care about your shoes. I don't care about your purse. I don't care about these little things in life. I think much deeper than that.
The
So
superficial things, you mean?
yeah, I'm not that person at all. I can't stand it. So to find these like deep thinkers and get into the meditation and to find these open-minded people like myself and like you, it's such a relief that to feel like you're not alone. Because all along you're searching, and all these people are not the same as you. Um, and then when you do find them, you feel more comfortable. And I do a lot of things on my own, which is the conflict. It's like trying to stay away from people but want people, because I want people like myself, because it's so stressful to be around those people that are so close-minded all the time. So you go into yourself a lot, where you're thinking all the time. You do your own meditation, and you eat well, and you might be into yoga and all that kind of stuff, which is so healthy for your own mindset. And that's where you learn you have to do things for yourself. And when the time, they always say, you're ready, the teacher will come. And it's true, because in
When the
times of my
student is
life,
ready, the teacher appears.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And in those moments, those people always appear in my life. And it's like the strangest times that I'll find myself talking to people about those spiritual moments. And that's supposed to happen that way. It's just incredible.
It really is. It really, really is. I sent you a passage too that when I told a friend of mine that I was going to be interviewing you, she sent me this passage. It was on one page, and basically, what I took from it was that so many of us come in conditioned from when we're born to a certain point, and what's wrong and what's right, and what's not, and between religion and society and all of these like influences that come in, and what happens is our view of sexuality is distorted, and often the case damaged to some degree, that certain things that are so okay and acceptable or normal for somebody is, again, there's just all this fear and all this, you said the word taboo, whatever the, because I'm speaking so generally, but there's all of this like tension around just the sexuality. And then what I was saying is that when you can let go in that way, that a lot of that stuff is healed. But it means like letting go, and sexuality is a way to let go. But what you're doing is you're releasing all of that negativity, all that that being deprived, in a sense, of your own personal freedom. Do you agree, disagree?
I do agree. I think people are too hard on themselves, and they limit themselves in so many different ways. And things do happen in childhood, or things that, you're so like taught a certain way your whole life, and then you're stuck. And people need to learn to unstick themselves and learn a whole different way. They have to learn what's right for them, and that it's okay to be sexual.
Right.
It's completely fine. It's part of our nature.
Well,
sometimes religion and things could cover that and bury it, and it's so depressing to think about that way. Is there's so many things that come into society that bring you down, and you need to break out of all of those expectations of you from other people, because they don't exist. It's just made up from humans, men.
It's our thought. It's how we our perception.
That's exactly right.
Right, we are conditioned to perceive things a certain way.
Yes.
And it's nobody's fault. The thing is, too, there's no blame to be put out. There's not, you don't, we can all spend time blaming, but it's really not going to change a thing. But the thing is to just evolve. Just simply evolve. And, excuse me. And that's easier said than done in most cases. And I think a lot of time, the point you just made about finding like-minded people is like such an awakening. It's like, oh my God, you just like, somebody else gets that. I had a lot of negative experience. Drugs and alcohol interfered with predominant part of my life. But with that being said, I learned so much from such an ugly experience, and I got some real beautiful people in my life and in my world as a direct result of just my own struggle. So I can look back and regret, but if I want to regret it all, that means I'd have to let go of some of the great things that I got out of it, and there is a lot of regret, but I have to be able to look at the bigger picture. When I look at the bigger picture, there's a lot less regret. You just have to go through your process.
It's a journey, everybody's own journey, and the first thing you need to do is forgive yourself for doing it. It's over. It's done. Right. What is going on here is not here anymore. That's the past. It doesn't exist anymore. And you could remake yourself every day. You don't have to be the same person that you were.
But the reason I bring that up is because with the perception of the types of sexuality that you talk about graphically in your books, the words that come along with that from the outside are shame, right? And all of these negative, shame is such a heavy word. And to put that on somebody because somebody, for whatever reason, it's just a lot to put on it, and especially if somebody's young or just not emotionally mature. And sometimes, that can take a lot of time away from somebody, just feeling all of that shame, wasting all of that time in this perception.
Right. I agree. Yeah.
So in saying that, I really think that there's a place, and I think that gives you a great reason to do what you do, because it's just, you're coming from your perspective. You have that right to do. I think that you give anybody that's interested in that. Your work is brilliant. You're a really good writer. For anybody that hasn't, your writing is brilliant, clearly. Yeah. Where do you go? What's your process like to write?
I don't really have a process because I'm a busy person. I work all day. I'm a mom. My home is crazy, so I literally work around chaos, and I've learned to do that my son is ADHD, so I feel like everyone's like, we think you are too, but I'm too like focused and I'm too organized. But I do have an element of that because I'm a go-go person. And my home life, it's like if you want something done, you learn to work around it. If I really want that book done, I'm going to have to sit down and block it all out for 10 minutes and write as much as I can. And then maybe in an hour, I could write another 10 minutes. And that's how my process goes. I don't get to have my little tea and go to a room and see all the beautiful flowers outside my window. It just doesn't work that way. So I literally work in chaos. You know, if I have a moment to myself, which is a joke, you know, I'll use it. And because my family comes first. So, you know, I don't do anything at night. I don't do anything on the weekends because that's for my family. So just imagine, you know, being at work and only having 5 minutes here or going home and, you know, after dinner having 10 more minutes. And that's literally how I work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And you can put together intimate storylines and keep them flowing as you're getting broke into this, that, and the other thing in the course of your daily life.
Well, my husband laughs at me. He's always like, I don't get it. I don't understand how you block it out. I'm like, I have to. I'm like,
and he watches it. I mean, I'm here sitting, you think, I'm like, how could I understand it if your husband lives with you, sees you do it, and can't believe it?
He's usually not home when I'm writing, but he sees the chaos going around. He's like, I don't understand. How do you not hear them screaming? And I'm like, because I can write. If I can write a book, I don't hear them screaming.
But you see that? I mean, there's a certain tremendous amount of like integrity as far as accomplishment going. Like when you're putting your mind to something, you're going to see it through. Now, how many people are lacking that quality? I mean, a lot. So for somebody that would be lacking that quality, they could learn a lot from you. But I think a lot of people like that, just because of the genre, will not even look at you at the rest of who you are. Like, you know, it's this.
They won't.
Right? And there's just so much there to learn. And that's just again, closed-minded. Like if let's say I don't like what you do. You know, that doesn't mean I can't learn from you and all the rest of the things. The fact that you're writing a book, whatever the book is about, if I don't like the book, don't read the book. That doesn't mean I can't learn from watching you put your mind to something and actually seeing it through. And then you get that sense of gratification from the accomplishment of completion. And how many people? So what is the primary symptom of ADHD? Starting how many things and completing none. Right? Not being able to stay focused. I mean, you say you might have it, maybe, but you also seem pretty focused.
Yeah, I'm very focused.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people could learn a lot from this and what your journey is. So my point is not to be stuck on something. If you're not into it, don't be into it. But you're not trying to convert anybody anyway. I personally have a big thing with this whole judgment thing. One of the most profound things I learned in my life was from a guy who mentored me for many, many years. People that judge don't matter. People that matter don't judge. I mean, a simple phrase like that completely flipped the switch for me. And I realized too, like, I judge. And when I don't judge, when I make a conscious effort to not judge somebody, like if I can catch myself in judgment and then pull that back, I feel less judged by people when I'm not doing it. I think it's it's like a reciprocation thing. If you don't put that energy out there, you don't feel that energy coming back and closing you down.
I can't tell how right you are. It's so hard to do because you're so conditioned. But once you do it, you get instant gratification and then you want more, and you know you're still pulled into this harsh, because it seems like social media has made it so easy to judge even more, because when you're face to face with somebody, you're way less likely to be like, I don't like you, than you are just to type something. So I found social media to be creating worse judgment upon people. So it is even harder. But you're right, because I've done that myself. You try to work with the energy and it totally works for you. So you have to keep it up, and that's the hard part. You know, stop judging this person. I have this view on vaccines and that person has that view on vaccines, and you know, it's like everybody just wants to get at each other, but nobody wants to learn from each other or learn about each other. So I'm just going to judge you because you have this erotica book.
Yeah.
But I'm going to learn who you are. What if you're this magnificent person that, we have a lot in common and we don't even know it.
That's, yes. Well, so we're definitely on the same page with that. And by the way, the guy who taught me this was a guy who was, he did federal time, state time. I mean, he was a real, I used to call him a critter. He was a rough and tumble, guy. But what he did was, and I met him, and he helped me recover so many times, and was one of the few people that didn't judge me throughout all my failed attempts. And he'd be like, just happy to see you back. And it meant, I can't tell you what that meant, but this is not a scholar guy. This is a guy that was so anti-religion, right? But so spiritual in his way, because I watched him do. You see, like all the stuff I learned in Catholic school and stuff about religion and what was allegedly what it's supposed to be all about was how you treat other people. And this guy used to go to prisons and do talks every single week and rehabs. And he went to the bottom of the barrel, what society would deem the bottom of the barrel, to take his message there. And he touched so many people. But he just did this. There was no fanfare. There was no like, this is what I do. He was and I watched it. I didn't hear him talk about it. I just watched it. And to me, that's service. And that is the quiet, that what you do for nothing.
That's right.
And tell no one.
That's
and
right.
I learned that because I fucked up. And I was in a situation where I met him. And that's what a blessing. But again, it's the whole judgment thing. People from the outside you can look and you can judge. When it doesn't matter to me if you judge me or not, I'm free. I'm so free. And
right.
that's the game changer. My point in all of it is just opening up to that, like that energy, and accepting the big thing. Now, where does sexuality, in your opinion, play into all of this? How important is it? They say, I heard this too, like in a relationship, in a healthy relationship, right? That a healthy sex life in a relationship is 5% of the relationship. An unhealthy sex life in a relationship is 95% of the relationship. Because when it ain't going right, it affects everything else.
I agree with that. And I think you have to stop with the expectations of each other. I think you have to be open. I think you have to try new things. I think you need to get rid of the mundane, get all that stuff out of your head of like what is expected from society, and do what you want and what makes you happy, and ask for what you want from your other partner, because you're not going to get it if you don't ask. And that's what they're there for, is to have this deep connection with you. I mean, isn't that what it's all about anyway? So I can't imagine not having this same with sexuality with each other. I'm not sure if erotica writers have a higher energy drive, to talk or think about or write about sex all the time. I know I have a high energy drive, and I think it's very important for myself to have a very deep connection with my partner, and to be very open and try new things and not poo-poo anything new, and discuss things and get on that level. I'm against watching TV every night. We don't do that. You have to sit and talk to each other and learn more about each other, because people change over time. You want to keep connecting with that person in your relationship.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that communication is important?
Of course communication is important.
What?
I'm just saying, people, they get in ruts. And ruts are fine because it's natural, and you will get into a rut, but don't stay there. Turn the TV off. Learn about each other. Go sit down, have a cocktail together. If you don't drink, go have some coffee together. Go play some games. Get away from the society's way of bringing you down. Get into nature. You need to get away from the negative energy into the positive energy, and bring this. And sexuality finds you better that way. You can't just turn the TV off and go, it's Tuesday, isn't this our night? No, it doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. You have to want it.
Right. Where does fear come into the equation?
Well, for me, everything is based on either fear or love. Literally everything. So fear is a big part of everybody's, again, you could live your whole life in fear, or you could put it aside and, what are you married for? What is this person here for you? What do they resemble for you? What is their point in your relationship? If you can't talk to them, who are you going to talk to? If you can't ask sexually for what you want from that person, then how can you expect your life or things to get better for yourself? A lot of people get stuck in so many ways, and sexuality is definitely one of them. People are still having a hard time coming out as far as being gay or anything else. So look, fear plays a huge role in all of that.
Were you ever at a point where maybe you weren't so comfortable expressing yourself?
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, how did you,
yes.
and then how did you get past that?
Honestly, for myself, it was finding the right person. You could be with somebody who makes you feel more insecure. You could be with somebody who, they're only out for a certain thing, and they're not looking for a deep connection. They're just out to get what they want, and then they're kind of done. Or, it's finding that level of equal and being with somebody who makes you feel open enough to talk to them. Sometimes just because you're attracted to one another doesn't mean it's going to work on all levels, is what I'm saying.
Of course.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. For myself, it took a long time, age, feeling better in my skin, feeling confident, finding that person that makes me feel good about myself.
Yeah, but when you say that, it just sounds like so happenstance. I just found the person, or they found whatever. I mean,
you may not. You may not.
Well, kind of where I'm going is like, do you think that were you doing some real personal work on yourself? I mean, to be more available when the person came your way?
I've always worked on myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't expect something from somebody else if I don't do it myself. So a lot of it had to do with experience and age, and like I said, all those elements to make me feel, to be able to ask for what I want. And once I got that, if you have that connection with somebody, sky's the limit, really.
Okay, but I was just trying to get you to be a little more specific, like, and where did you get if you were at a point in your life where you weren't able to ask for what you want, maybe you didn't even know at a certain point in your life what you want. I mean, that comes whenever it comes to each person too, right? So what kind of work did you do to get to the point where you were empowered enough to say, you know what, this is kind of what I want?
I don't really did any work for myself. I became a different person because I grew older and I knew what I wanted. I had already been married before, and so, when I met my spouse, things just came about with us. There was a spark, and things did change, and my whole sexuality changed. We tried things with each other that I had never done in other relationships. And so it went from there because that was the fun part. We dabbled in BDSM. Before, I would have laughed at people who did BDSM. It wasn't a writer, and I thought that was weird stuff. But now that I'm all into all of this, it's fascinating. And it's funny to look back and think that person was making fun of these people, and now I am having fun with it.
Well, that's what I mean, because that's a profound thing for you personally. That was a big step, right? And so that's a specific step as well. I mean, it's, that you can point to as saying, yeah, this changed the game a little bit here. I probably a lot more than a little bit, because then you can become acceptable in something that was, for whatever reason, over there. So now other things over there become more acceptable, and suddenly your world is open. And it's not for everybody. These things, I mean, some things intrigue people and don't intrigue other people, and everybody said their own thing. But you went according to the voice that was inside you, and you followed your truth, and that was important to you. And that's kind of what that I took away from what you just said. Is that?
Yeah, you dead on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's important. I do. I mean, I think, to own who we are.
It takes a long time to get there, but yes.
Yeah. And I think also some people, I think it's easier to stay stuck than it is to challenge that and risk falling on your face, risk, whatever potential awaits you, that may not be so positive. So we let the fear win. Sometimes just the fear of the unknown
right.
will stop us. And when we know, like, I'm in a rut and I can't stand where I am, but I'd rather stay there because I know it than actually
It's
make a move to
comfortable.
get out of it. It's called, yeah, and then people go, depression, and okay, yeah. But sometimes it's just a simple action to break that momentum and break that and shift things. And I hear this in the world of consciousness all the time. There's a shift happening. I'm shifting. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like I'm shifting. And you're waiting like, you know. No, it's a real. So stop poo pooing it and pay attention, and I can see the value in it. Because people
Yeah.
do grow. It's amazing.
You have to grow. If you want to get better in anything, you have to grow. But I know, I always think if you're always comfortable, how are you ever going to see what you're made of? If you don't take that further step, just to see, just to see
Absolutely.
what's in that next door.
Yeah. Yeah. But I also think there's personality types, you being one of those personality types where that's important for you. A risk taker, a game changer, a difference maker, and
Yeah.
and that's why I'm so intrigued with what you do because you're out there, man. It's there's a lot at stake. Um, I could come up with 1,000 reasons to not do what you do. You know what I mean? That I could heal. I could send you a list of 1,000 reasons why this is probably not the safest way to go. And you would probably be back in one sentence. I didn't ask you, and I don't like safety. You would have just squashed all my shit. But because it's that simple. It's that
It
simple.
is
You're going to
cool.
accomplish things
Yeah.
because you challenge your fears.
That's right. I'm going to do what I want to do and get there how I want to get there because the rest of the world is going to mock me anyway. It doesn't matter what you do, and somebody's always going to have something negative to say.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? It's working for me, and I've always learned the best thing that I've ever learned is to listen to my intuition because it's never wrong. Never.
That's
Yeah.
intuitive. Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah.
I was like that, except that like I had a girl, a guest on the show, Maya, a profound girl to me. I mean, she's amazing and a dear friend. And when I first was talking to her about this, I'm just like, yeah, it sounds good, but I don't know if I buy any of this. Like trusting your inner voice and I mean, if you had, with your life, I trust my inner voice too. But if you had my life, my inner voice destroyed me, telling me it allowed me to rationalize things and to do things that I knew were wrong, kind of justify, you know, ridiculous, monumental, disastrous behavior. So it all depends on what your experience is. But when you can get past all that damage, right, and understand that that voice is I always I could feel people and I know this person's good. There's something redeeming in this person. My instinct has always been good to me. It's just that when I start lying to myself, and that's a conscious move itself, because I think we do know when we're doing that as well. If I want to get high more than I want to stay straight, I know I might have to lie to myself. So I willingly lie to myself because the motivating factor is the end result. It's no different than anything else because instant gratification, whether it's through drugs, sex, work, gambling, whatever the vice is. I mean, anybody can overdo anything. But there's also people that can do what they do. And we learn what our limits are in different areas. But to watch somebody courageously step forward and trust themselves and their instincts was something that I'm in the process of relearning that and getting that, that strength in that again. I think it's invaluable. And I didn't even know that it was that, like, lacking. Because, again, the conditioning that I'm around, and subconsciously we surround ourselves in these elements that accept our bullshit. We know how to, that manipulative way of living is just, it is what it is. I have another, another girl, amazing, cancer survivor, a young girl, so accomplished, so spectacular. But what she's dealing with is real life, and it's really, really, it's tough. But I can see the similarities between you and her. And just the fact that when you put your mind to something, you do it. When she puts her mind, she's accomplished amazing things. She's absolutely, amazing. There's so much to be said for that. There's so much to be said because the things you do are different than the things she does, right? we're not getting into the specific in this particular topic. Is that it's just that drive that makes you a winner. That you can just feel like a winner. You don't need anybody else outside to say, Soleil, you're a winner. You don't even need that. That's how much of a winner you are. You know? How beautiful is that?
It takes a long way to get there, but I wish everybody could do that for themselves. You have to have a pretty tough skin to be able to block everybody else out, because I know so many people who rely on other people's thoughts and opinions about themselves, and that's where they go wrong, in my opinion, because it's not an arrogance that I don't care about their opinion. It's a mindset of, this is what I'm going to try and accomplish for myself, and I'm going to see how to get there, and the people along the line are going to help me, like my publisher, and I'm going to go along those lines and see where I'm going to go. But if I just listen to the sideline people, I would never get there, because I would feel bad about myself. Yeah, and you talk about this other voice, but it's just subtle. It's always worked for me. It's very subtle for me, and I didn't really go down a bad road. I was always a very overly responsible person. I grew up very, very strangely. My parents were very strange people. So I learned, because of my childhood, I learned to rely on my instincts. And I think, like you said earlier, is that your conditioning as you're younger, you either take this road or that road. And I could have definitely taken the road that you were on because of my childhood. But, I didn't have that mindset as a kid. So I went the other route, to where I was almost too controlling, and everything had to be so. And so it was like this whole other weird thing that I had to work with myself, and other people were like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't care, it has to be this way. And that's because of my conditioning as a kid. It was like, things were so messed up as a kid that, I did not want to be like my parents. I did not want to be a drinker. I didn't want to do drugs. So it was just like, it was the opposite of you, but in like a negative way.
My parents didn't do that too either. It's funny. My parents didn't do that. I love people like you, because you're humble in what you do. You just do it, and you're not out there looking for. I sought you out. You didn't come here and ask me for a platform. If you're looking for a platform, I'm trying to build a platform, so I don't know if you know. But I just think you have such a remarkable story, and I'm always more intrigued with people that just. I want to tell your story. I think what you're doing is great, and whatever that's worth. You know what I mean?
I think that's marvelous, because how out of all these erotica writers did we find each other? Those moments in life.
Honestly, it's not like I'm out there reading all this erotica. Somebody directed me here, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. And we spoke, and I was just like, I had no idea that you were going to be anything like you are. I had no idea. You have a couple of causes that you're really, really passionate about, and you really get into and get behind. I wanted to, let you talk about them and why they're so dear to you.
I'm very into helping kidnapped children. We have 2,000 that go missing a year. Not a year, a day. It's incredible. You got to wonder what's going on in the world. Sex trafficking has become, people are lost in what goes on in the world. They only listen to social media. They have to do their homework on things. The whole sex trafficking thing has been going on since at least the 80s with the milk carton kids, if you remember that. It was the second or third one. And what got me into it is I started reading about Johnny Gosch, if you even remember following the story, because the mom was as crazy as me, as far as trying to find her son and seeing what the story was. And I've never delved into a rabbit hole as crazy as that one.
Wow.
I'm telling you, it was the craziest story I've ever heard. And it came out that he was kidnapped on his newspaper route, and he wasn't the only boy, and this was in Nebraska, or I think he was in Iowa. Okay, he was in Iowa. And he was the third one to be kidnapped. And these kids ended up in, as the story went on, in the sex trafficking ring. This goes on everywhere, and people think that this is going on in other countries. It's right in your backyard. So I'm big on sex trafficking, because people have this weird taboo again of thinking that these are people, prostitutes. It's not. These are infants, toddlers, children, women, men, boys. that are all taken off the streets or lured. And that is one of the biggest things for me is people don't read into this. They don't follow the stories. They don't, they'll just see a clip it on the media, and that's about it for them. But I read everything. I delve into everything, and I took literally a year and a half to follow this story, and it went down the craziest rabbit hole I could ever imagine. I'm a humanitarian. I'm a vegetarian. I look out for children and animals. I try to do a lot of good on the side, because you only get one shot here, and I think you need to do. I don't think it's a free ride. I think you need to do your part here, even if it's something small.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I mean, this is so great. I mean, I love this. And this is so much a part of you that I just don't, it's all a part of you, and it's all has its rightful place in your life. What makes you, you. And that's really the point of this. Maybe you could just briefly talk about too with your vegetarian and the animal cruelty and why vegetarianism is so important to you.
Oh, I'm going to anger a lot of people, but it has a lot to do with the animals. I don't understand the concept. Again, this is conditioning as you grow up, but I really don't see the difference between a cow and a dog. You do, because not you personally, you, maybe people out there, this is my pet and that is what we eat, and that's just the way it's always been. But to me, a soul is a soul. In this day and age, people make excuses. I've heard every excuse in the world. We're man-eater or, meat eaters. This is what we do. It goes back from time. Okay, that's all great. But times have changed. We've evolved. You don't have to kill an animal now. You don't have to go that route. My biggest issue with it is people have no clue as what goes on in slaughterhouses. The animal, I beg people to watch the videos, because I'm trying to think of some really good ones. Earthlings. People should watch, and not just I think it was Lenin who said, if agriculture had windows to see what was going on, everybody would be a vegetarian. And I'm telling you, they would. It's not just like the inhumanitarian way of killing an animal. It's also their meat is also soaked in ammonia, because there's so much. The conditions are so harsh that the cattle are standing in their own excrement, and so. And they're so compounded with all these drugs to make them bigger as fast as possible that they collapse. And so they're literally sitting in feces, and then of course that's all over the meat. So they have to rinse it with ammonia. So now you're eating ammonia, which is terrible for you. And then all those like antibiotics, and they're all lies. I'm not a PETA person, but I do believe a lot of what PETA does. Mm-hmm. They could go a little over the top. But I understand why they do it. I don't think people realize that most of there's a big part of the ocean that's dead, yeah. Which means there's no living animals there. There's going to be very little fish by 2020.
I know.
It's hard to accept that, but it's the truth.
Right.
Like, people don't look into that. So it's not just vegetarianism for the animals, but it's, if you want to look at it as a greedy point of view, you're not going to be here and you're not going to be able to eat meat yourself, because there's not going to be anything left. The oceans are dying, the trees are dying, all the land is being used for animals so that we can eat them, and then all that stuff is going into the air. So it's a big, long, tragic.
And the ice caps are melting, and then the sea level's rising, and we can go on and on and on. But if nobody wants to pay attention, I mean, that's why I'm glad you take the time to just make your point, because, it needs to be made.
I'm not just going to follow what I'm told. I'm going to read into things and look into things and do my own homework to see if something's legit. I'm not a follower, that's for sure. So what I've learned...
That's clear. We got that. That came through clear. You're not a follower. That's for sure.
No, I'm not a follower. I'm trying to teach my kids that.
Yeah, good for you. I'm fascinated with what you do. How many books do you have out? Like, what's your latest project? Let's talk about what you're doing. What you're writing.
I have a novel, The Seduction of Lexi Dane. That's a paranormal story with vampires. I have My Sweet Entity, which is a ghost story, and then the sequel to that. And so I'm going to make that into a trilogy by Christmas. And then I have Claiming Holly, which is more of a nanny BDSM story. And then I actually have one with my publisher now. We're editing together, and it's called Fire and Ice, which is another BDSM story. After that, I have a sci-fi that I need to wrap up from the summertime, and then I can't wait to get into the serial killer thing. So that'll be an interesting time, because I don't think I'm going to connect Soliel DeBella with those books because of the taboo. I don't know how I'm going to work that as far as pen names go, but I do write other genres, and that's where I'm at right now, is that I have these, 5 books, and then I'll have hopefully the 2 more, and then the last one. And after that, I don't know.
Okay, how would somebody find these books? Where do they go to get your stuff?
I have, everything is on Amazon. So they can go there. I am affiliated with TWB Press and Amore Moon Publishing. Would love to praise my hardworking publisher Terry and Bobette Wright, because they have helped me so much. You go through this process of being, thrown to the curb, and I've had people say, "I love your stories, but your editing is the worst." Yeah, I know, because I didn't go to school for that. So I was lucky enough to find these folks that are.
Oh, they edit for you, or do you self-edit?
They edit for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How valuable is that? Just having that objective, those objective eyes on your work.
It's invaluable, because you work together to make such a great story. He has years of experience on me. He's been doing this for ages. So, to collaborate on a book like that, you realize how invaluable it is when it's finished, because it sounds perfect. He'll throw words in, I'll throw more words in. We'll talk about, how does this go and that go, and by the end of it, it's great. So I can't imagine doing it all by myself without him at this point, really, because the story comes out so much better. If anybody who's watching this wants to join Facebook, of course I always post everything there. You get to know me better there, because I'm more myself. So you could take me or leave me. And then
your posts are phenomenal, by the way. I mean, you get into it. Your creative forces come out. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
really
I'm
good.
myself. There's nothing.
Yeah.
I don't. There's no fluff here.
And you know what it is? It's all tasteful too, in a sense. I mean, your post, it really is. It's not anything that to be alarmed by, but it's very revealing in the same sense. It's very good. I gotta give you that. It's really good. Interesting. Yeah. Oh wow. Well, this is great, and I want to do this again, because I want to follow up on your work and what you do, because I've had other authors on. I have a friend, Danny Curran, DP Curran. He's just another brilliant writer. The struggle for just a writer, forget the genre, to get stuff published and to actually make a living from writing is just so hard. And it has nothing to do with how good you are. There's so much more. Like when they talk about the music business or the book, it's the business, and it's so hard because the format's completely changed from just a few years ago, and people have to learn how to get how to make this happen, and it's really, really tough. So I give you so much credit for just doing what you do, sticking to it, being convicted to do what you do, and staying and seeing it through. I admire you for it, and anybody that writes, it's so hard to do.
Thank you.
So anybody. Excuse me?
Yeah. It is hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've been doing it, so congratulations. Bravo.
Thank you.
Yeah. I thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure. I can't thank you.
Same here. Thank you.
All right. One other last point. I think we both agree on this about how futile this whole social media thing can be, and just like it's another way to glom your time and just waste, go on this, non-directional path, right?
In this day and age, if you're not, you have to do as much as you can to market yourself.
Right.
That's a lot of people don't understand that you don't get to just write. I don't just write. I have to work and do all this other stuff, and then I have to market.
Yes.
So then marketing is, you have to drive out to these author signings, and you have to, go get your business cards and try to send them out. And, you're doing all these things, and social media helps that way, because it's kind of like promoting for you. You could just make a post and, thousands of people see it. So then you go to Twitter and you do that too. But then it's engaging with all these other authors, and you have to engage with other people, and it is very time consuming because that's how you're building your audience, and people are getting to know you on a personal level, and it is all very time consuming.
Yes.
Yeah.
I personally like the way you go about it, and the way you use your page and everything too, because you have to promote and at the same time not do it in a way where you're
pushy. Yeah.
Pushy and kind of like invasive, and there's that fine line. I don't know if I'm doing it right. I try my best, and I don't know, and I don't know if you learn unless you go through this process of learning. Until you can find what works, for you as a writer to do what you do. But I personally like the way you do it. I mean, you really, you have a cool flair about the way you do it, and then you make it very intriguing. And not over the top. I think it's very tasteful. I commend you. Yeah, big time. Good job, Soleil. Good job. All right. I just, thanks again. I mean, you're the best. I mean, you're just so open and honest. You're the best. Thank you so much for your time. And like I say, I really look forward to doing this again and getting your stuff out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Soliel DeBella. Thanks.
Soliel DeBella. Just right off the lips.
That's right.